Have you ever noticed that the more you try to explain yourself, the less people understand you? That the more you insist on being seen, the more invisible you seem to become? Sometimes, life only starts to reorganize itself the moment you disappear. Not out of cowardice, but out of wisdom. There's a kind of silence that isn't absence. It's a statement, an energy that doesn't shout, but commands. A strength that doesn't fight back. It simply vanishes and transforms everything around it. You don't need to win through confrontation. Stoicism shows another path. A path few have the courage to follow. The path of winning without reacting. Of disappearing with elegance. Of staying silent with dignity. This video is for you who are tired of justifying your peace. For you who have worn yourself out trying to be understood, and who now feel that maybe it's time to retreat. Because those who learn to disappear with purpose return with power, and those who learn to win without fighting never get lost again. Watch until the end. This content will touch a place inside you that perhaps no one has ever reached. And if that happens, comment below. My silence now has direction. I want to see who will have the courage to embrace this new beginning. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and follow the upcoming episodes. The power of silent retreat. Silence is the invisible sword of the Stoic. It doesn't cut others. It dissolves the ego. In a world that screams for attention, those who stay silent become enigmatic, almost unbeatable. The absence of words exposes what speech would try to hide. Silence isn't passivity, it's precision. It protects, pushes away the unnecessary, and creates space for clarity. In silence, the Stoic finds themselves, and because of that, no one can shake them anymore. Disappearing isn't giving up, it's redefining your territory. When you vanish in silence, you remove the fuel from conflict. It's a subtle and strategic move. Retreating to grow. Strategic withdrawal strengthens the spirit, sharpens discernment, and reconnects the soul with its essence. The Stoic understands that the best response to chaos is their own absence. It's in this vanishing that victory begins to take shape, quietly but firmly. Not reacting isn't weakness, it's self-mastery. It's the pinnacle of emotional control. When someone attacks you expecting a fight and finds only your silence, the game ends there. The attack falls apart in the void you offer as a shield. You don't lose yourself trying to justify, nor do you exhaust yourself trying to be understood. The Stoics spares themselves, and in that choice, they become untouchable. Absence is a sophisticated presence. Those who know how to disappear know how to be remembered. It's in vanishing that respect is born. When you stay silent, others begin to hear what they never wanted to listen to. Your absence speaks, your silent energy commands, and what seemed like a disappearance transforms into a noble presence, one that echoes even when you're not there. Some win battles without raising a sword. A precise withdrawal saved Marcus Aurelius from unnecessary wars. An intentional silence from Epictetus disarmed insults that tried to poison his soul. In every Stoic story, there's a retreat that changed the course of life. Because those who know when to leave also know when to return, and they return greater. Why does silence scare those who lose you? Silence disarms those who expected noise. When you disappear, others are forced to confront their own emptiness, and that confrontation hurts. The Stoic knows that silence is more uncomfortable than a fight. Because absence forces others to reflect, and there's nothing more terrifying for those who live distracted. Silence is a mirror. It shows what words try to hide, and those who lose you start to hear everything they ignored before. Disappearing in silence is like closing a door without locking it. People expect you to come back, but you don't. You evolve. Strategic withdrawal breaks expectations, destabilizes manipulations, and imposes a new reality. It's in this vanishing that power reveals itself. The Stoic doesn't disappear out of revenge, but out of clarity. They step away to protect their peace. And when they return, if they choose to, they're already someone else. Not reacting is making others deal with the echo of their own actions. When you stay silent, guilt makes noise in the hearts of those left behind. There's no punishment more impactful than wise indifference. An attack loses strength when it meets no resistance. Silence reveals what shouting hides. And the Stoic, with their self-control, observes everything without needing to explain. That's what scares people, because there's no defense against someone who doesn't attack. Absence begins to hurt those who never valued your presence. Your departure, once underestimated, becomes an unbearable void. Those who took you for granted now search for you in the emptiness, and they discover too late that respect isn't demanded, it's earned. And silence, when used well, commands more respect than 1,000 speeches. Disappearing with dignity is shouting with elegance. Marcus Aurelius said, "Nothing happens to a man that he is not prepared to endure. But few are ready to endure the silence of someone who's gone. And even fewer are prepared for the strength that silence carries." Every story of loss has one thing in common. One day, the one who stayed silent was heard, not through words, but through absence. Stoicism doesn't fight, it retreats. The Stoic doesn't step into others' arenas. They observe from afar and choose where to place their energy. A fight only exists when both sides are willing to wound each other. But silence disarms any conflict. It doesn't react to poison, it steps away from the source. The power of inner silence lies in this. It preserves peace and weakens the other's ego. Those who expected a fight find maturity, and they're thrown off balance. Disappearing, in this case, is breaking the cycle of provocation. It's refusing to give a stage to what doesn't deserve a show. It's vanishing in silence while others try to pull you into their drama. The Stoics' strategic retreat isn't cowardice, it's wisdom. They understand that every bit of energy spent fighting is energy stolen from personal growth, so they step back and win. In their own way, in their own time. Not reacting to an offense is putting the ego in its place. The urge to respond, to prove, to argue. That's the ego demanding a spotlight. But the Stoic, with mental discipline, stays silent. They know silence is more instructive than any lecture. Leaving others talking to themselves is a lesson the soul understands without subtitles. And when silence happens, the attacker shrinks, because they realize they've lost control. Retreat creates space. And where there's space, respect can flourish. You set boundaries without raising your voice. Your absence communicates more than your worn-out presence. When you don't fight, don't shout, don't justify, you start to be seen as untouchable. And that unsettles people, because respect is born when others realize they no longer have access to your energy. How many wars were won with the simple act of stepping away? Epictetus, for example, lived among violent men and never let himself be swayed. His greatest weapon was non-involvement. He withdrew, he observed, and he kept growing in silence. Because those who don't get entangled don't get contaminated. And that's more powerful than any argument. When you disappear, the universe acts. Silence isn't just absence, it's an opening. When the Stoic stays silent, they make space for something greater to act. The universe doesn't work in the noise of urgency, but in the rhythm of surrender. By silencing, you allow invisible forces to align. Destiny doesn't operate when you're shouting to be seen. It acts when you retreat to be guided. The Stoics' powerful silence is, in truth, a wordless prayer. Disappearing is letting go of control and trusting the direction. Strategic retreat isn't abandonment, it's faith. Those who vanish in silence say to the universe, "Now it's up to you." And in that space of trust, improbable things happen. Doors open where there were once walls. People fall on their own without you needing to push. The Stoic understands. Their absence might be exactly the nudge the world needed to reorganize itself. Not reacting is also a sign of deep trust. When you stop responding, confronting, insisting, you trust that life knows where to land. It's like letting go of the reins of a wild horse. At first it feels risky, but then you realize the horse knows the path better than you. The Stoic stays silent not out of resignation, but because they know there's a right time for everything, and they're not the master of that time. In this context, absence becomes the fertilizer for respect. When you're too present, too insistent, people get used to ignoring you. But when you disappear, your presence is missed, and absence becomes a symbolic presence, echoing where there was once disregard. Disappearing in silence is valuing yourself. It's reminding the world that your energy has a price, and it won't be given away at any cost anymore. Many sages report their greatest breakthroughs after long periods of retreat. Jung wrote much of his work after inner withdrawals. Seneca produced wisdom while in exile. And you? What can emerge from your silence? What is the universe waiting for you to let go of so it can finally act? Sometimes all it takes is to stay silent for the miracle to begin. Not explaining is the new power. Explaining too much is almost always a disguised plea for acceptance. The Stoic doesn't beg for understanding. They know that not everything needs to be said, nor does every action need justification. Inner silence is a shield against the need to prove anything to anyone. Explanations wear you out. Silence commands. When you stay silent, you don't diminish yourself. You protect yourself. Because those who truly understand never demand that you explain. Disappearing without giving explanations is the art of prioritizing your own peace. The Stoics' strategic retreat is also a silent response to chaos. You simply leave. No drama, no note, no trace. And that's exactly what unsettles people, the absence of noise. People can't stand not knowing. And it's in that gap that your strength grows, because where there's no explanation, there's room for respect or for regret. Not reacting with explanations breaks the cycle of validation. The Stoic doesn't need to justify their peace. If they stay silent, it's because the world's noise doesn't deserve their energy. Those who want to understand already have. Those who don't deserve the effort. Silencing in the face of demands is wisdom disguised as coldness. It's not bowing to others' expectations. It's affirming, with self-control, that your truth doesn't need to be sold. The absence of justifications transforms your image. From vulnerable, you become enigmatic. From predictable, untouchable. When you don't explain, you value yourself. Your absence becomes a noble presence, and the respect that was once begged for is now earned. Powerful silence has that effect. It doesn't shout for recognition, but it attracts admiration. Because those who don't expose themselves command. How many times has an explanation prolonged pain? How many times in trying to justify did you end up feeling smaller? Marcus Aurelius didn't apologize for his integrity. Epictetus didn't ask forgiveness for his clarity. They simply acted and let time respond. And you? Are you ready to use silence as your noblest defense? Silence isn't empty. It's full of answers. The world taught you to see silence as absence, but Stoicism shows you that it's a profound presence. Inner silence isn't a void, it's a fertile field where truth finally finds space to emerge. While noise confuses, silence reveals. It's in staying silent that you begin to hear what truly matters. And those who learn to listen to themselves no longer depend on others' approval. Disappearing isn't vanishing into the dark, it's walking toward your inner light. When you step away, you're not fleeing, you're accessing answers that noise drowned out. Strategic retreat clears mental clutter, organizes emotions, and opens clearings within the soul. Disappearing in silence is like entering a sacred forest. You never come out the same. and what seemed empty reveals itself as a sanctuary of healing. Not reacting allows answers to arrive without pressure. The Stoic doesn't force explanations. They let time bring clarity. By not reacting, you transform restlessness into observation. And that shift changes everything. You stop living on the surface of reactions and dive into the depth of understanding. Silence shows you what confrontation would never reveal. That peace lies in not always needing to win. The absence of words is the clearest invitation wisdom can offer. When you stay silent, you hear yourself. When you withdraw, you see yourself. The invisible strength of silence is that it reorganizes the world without needing to touch it. You don't convince anyone, you simply align. And that alignment, by itself, changes how the world perceives you. Because those at peace with themselves radiate something no one can ignore. Seneca said that silence is one of the great craftsmen of the soul. And he was right. It was in silence that he wrote his greatest works, and in silence that the world began to hear him. The soul doesn't shout, it whispers, but only those who stay silent can hear it. And maybe now, it's your time to listen to what's been trying to guide you for so long. Those who disappear grow in peace. Constant presence wears you down. The Stoic understands that growth requires silence, requires disappearing. When you withdraw, you take a step inward. And it's there, far from the world's noise, that the soul finds space to flourish. Peace isn't won amidst shouting, it's built in retreat. Those who learn to disappear learn to listen to themselves, and those who listen to themselves grow in depth. Disappearing strategically is planting roots in the invisible. Strategic retreat isn't abandonment, it's strengthening. You stop being available for everything and start being whole within yourself. The silent energy of retreat nourishes ideas, refines purposes, heals wounds no one saw. Disappearing is protecting what's still forming. True growth isn't displayed, it's prepared in the dark, like a seed in the womb of the earth. Not reacting during your own process is a sign of maturity. The Stoic stays silent, not for lack of words, but for an abundance of awareness. They know that every unnecessary reaction interrupts the inner construction process. Mental discipline demands restraint, and in that silent restraint, inner strength solidifies. You stop responding to the world and start responding to your truth. Those who disappear re-emerge different. Absence becomes alchemy. What was exhaustion turns into clarity. What was demand turns into purpose. And then when you reappear, you no longer need to explain or prove yourself. People notice you've changed, but they don't know exactly how. That's the subtle respect silence builds. Presence without noise, influence without effort, authority without words. Great masters always disappeared before becoming references. Jesus went to the desert. Jung withdrew to confront his shadow. Marcus Aurelius wrote for himself before being read by the world. They all grew in the shadows before blooming in the light. And maybe now it's you who needs to disappear, to finally be born. The invisible victory is the most lasting. The Stoic doesn't need applause to feel victorious. They understand that the deepest conquests happen out of sight, in battles no one saw. Winning without fighting is more than a strategy. It's a philosophy of life. Inner silence, when well cultivated, becomes an invisible armor. You don't need to prove anything. You just need to keep going. The silent victory is the one time recognizes when it's too late for others to understand. Disappearing in silence is conquering your own territory without announcing it to anyone. Strategic retreat doesn't create fanfare or spectacle. It just happens. And while the world is distracted, you're growing. True victories don't need an audience. They accumulate within you, in the form of self-control, emotional resilience, clarity of purpose. Disappearing is the tactic of those who know the most valuable trophy is their own peace. Not reacting is cutting the thread that ties you to conflict. When you don't respond, don't argue, don't engage. The other loses the weapon they used against you, your attention. The true victory happens when you don't wear yourself out, when you preserve yourself. The Stoic wins because they don't enter the arena. They observe from afar and move forward. Their peace is already the trophy. Absence transforms into power when you realize you don't need to be seen to be remembered. Your silent energy starts to be perceived differently. People notice your lightness, your consistency, your balance, and they respect it, because the world admires those who aren't shaken by chaos. Presence without noise builds reputation, and a silent reputation, that's the lasting kind. Marcus Aurelius conquered empires with stoicism, not with a sword. Epictetus, with no power, became immortal through his words, and neither raised their voice. Their victories happened in the silence of the soul, in the discipline of their days. Maybe yours is happening now, even if no one is watching. Pride wants to shout. Wisdom stays silent. It's easy to shout when you're hurt. It's hard to stay silent when you're right. Pride demands a stage, demands a response, begs for recognition. But the Stoic has learned to silence where the ego wanted to scream, because they know not every wound needs to be shown, nor every offense needs a reply. True wisdom doesn't justify itself, it simply continues, in peace, even when the world provokes. Disappearing without responding is like turning your back on the battlefield with the certainty that victory is already yours. The wise person's strategic retreat is the most elegant blow against others' pride. While everyone expects a reaction, you walk away. And in that silence, you win. You win time, respect, energy. Disappearing with dignity lets silence be the final and incontestable response. Not reacting is often an act of courage. You hold back the word in your throat, the argument on the tip of your tongue, the emotion in your chest. But in doing so, you also hold on to your energy. The Stoic understands that the hardest battle isn't against others, it's against oneself. And by winning it, they prove that the greatest power isn't in winning debates, but in maintaining serenity. By staying silent, you show that your peace isn't for sale. The absence of a response disarms the aggressor. Your silent energy stands as an invisible wall, and those who attacked you start to realize you're no longer accessible. Respect is born there, in the awareness that you don't explain. Don't lower yourself. Don't get lost. Your absence becomes a respected presence. Your strength, a presence without noise. Marcus Aurelius faced the chaos of the empire with serenity. When everyone shouted, he wrote. When everyone judged, he reflected. And his wisdom to this day echoes as proof that silence has always been wiser than pride. And maybe that's exactly what you're missing now. Stop shouting outwardly and start listening inwardly. The reward of disappearing, inner freedom. When the Stoic disappears, they're not leaving the world, they're leaving the prison of expectation. Inner silence brings a liberation no response can provide. By staying silent, they break the invisible chains of validation. They no longer need to be understood, accepted, or followed. Because true power is born when you are enough for yourself, and those who are enough are free. Disappearing strategically is like breaking free from the script the world wrote for you. Retreat is a silent revolution. You choose where you step, who you speak to, what you give, and that power of choice is gold. It's peace disguised as absence. You stop chasing and start walking inward. Disappearing in silence is telling the world, my soul is no longer for sale. Not reacting at this point is preserving your autonomy. It's stopping others from having the right to decide how you feel. The Stoic understands that every impulsive response is a piece of freedom handed over on a platter, and they prefer to keep their energy guarded, sacred, intact. Because freedom isn't a place, it's an inner state, and it begins when you learn not to react to everything. Absence transforms into sovereignty. You're no longer moved by guilt, fear, or need. The silent energy born from conscious disappearance shields you from the world's noise. People may try to reach you, but they can't touch you anymore, because those who free themselves inwardly begin to vibrate differently. And that vibration builds a new kind of respect, one that doesn't impose, it inspires. Epictetus was a slave, but his mind was free. Jung dove into the unconscious and returned his own master. They all disappeared and came back greater. Because the freedom that truly matters isn't about coming and going. It's about being, in silence, everything the world tried to stop you from being. Now that you understand the true power of disappearing in silence, the question is, are you ready to stop reacting and start living? Are you prepared to retreat, heal, and let silence speak for you? The Stoic path doesn't require brute strength. It requires inner strength. And that strength is built when you choose your peace over your response. When you disappear out of wisdom, not weakness. When you win without needing to show you've won. Start today. Take a step inward. Gather your energy. Stay silent where you once shouted. And watch what changes. Maybe the respect you've been seeking is hidden in your deepest silence. Tell me in the comments, which part of this video made you see that silence is also a strategy? And if this content spoke to your soul, don't keep it to yourself. Share it. Spread this invisible strength. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and follow the upcoming episodes. Click there and start your silent journey toward your best self.